All right, deep divers, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive into the EUAI Act?
Always ready.
Last time we did kind of a broad overview, right? The purpose and scope of the act. But this time,
This time we get to the nitty-gritty.
yeah, we're going deep on the AI practices that are just straight up banned by the act. No ifs, ands, or buts. Like, what's the EU saying absolutely not to?
Exactly. It's one thing to encourage responsible AI, but sometimes you got to draw a hard line.
Okay, so think about it like this. AI that's so sneaky, so under the radar, that it's basically Jedi mind tricking you into decisions, making you do things you wouldn't normally do. Kind of creepy, right?
Yeah, it is a bit unsettling when you put it that way, and that's exactly where Article 5.1a comes in. It's all about protecting your freedom of choice, your autonomy, making sure AI isn't hijacking your ability to make your own decisions.
So cut through the legalese for me. What's the core of this article?
Basically, it's trying to outlaw any AI systems that mess with your mind to steer you in a specific direction. It's about shielding you from those shady manipulation tactics that could lead you down a path of harm.
Harm, huh? Like what kind of harm are we talking about?
Well, it could be physical, psychological, even financial. Think about being tricked into buying something you can't afford or making a healthcare decision based on biased information fed to you by an AI. Those are real risks.
Whoa, okay, I see what you mean. But how do you even prove AI is manipulating someone? It seems kind of subjective, you know?
That's one of the trickiest parts about this article. Proving intent, showing that these subtle manipulative techniques are being used. It's a tough nut to crack. But just having this law in place sends a powerful message to developers and companies. Don't even think about crossing this line.
It's a shot across the bow.
Right. And it pushes for the creation of tools and methods to detect and prevent this kind of manipulation from happening in the first place.
Okay, so we've got the EU AI Act laying down the law, but how would this ban actually work in real life? I know our source material has some specific examples across different industries.
Yes, it does. Some pretty eye-opening stuff.
Let's start with one that probably hits close to home for most of our listeners, advertising.
Yeah.
We've all seen those ads that are like creepily personalized, almost like they're reading our minds.
Right. Like, how did they know? I was just thinking about that. While personalized ads in themselves aren't bad, it gets tricky when AI starts using techniques to bypass our conscious decision-making. That's where the line gets blurry.
So no more subliminal messages flashing "buy now" in our subconscious then.
Not if the EUAI Act gets its way. Transparency is key. Consumers need to know when AI is being used to try and influence their choices. No more hiding behind the algorithm.
Makes sense. But wouldn't companies just find sneaky new ways to manipulate us? It feels like a never-ending game of cat and mouse.
It's a legitimate concern, and it shows how tricky it is to keep up with AI. As technology keeps evolving, so will the ways people try to manipulate it. It's a race to stay ahead of the game.
Okay, next up, e-commerce. I'm definitely guilty of some impulsive online shopping, but with AI involved, it feels like a whole new level of temptation.
Yeah, imagine an online store powered by AI that's tweaking things in the background to make you spend more, like subtly changing colors or flashing images for a split second to trigger those buying impulses.
Are they really doing that already? That's wild.
Maybe not to that extent, but the potential is there. And that's what Article 5.1a is trying to prevent. E-commerce sites can still use AI to make shopping better, but they can't use it to trick people into buying stuff they don't need.
So the AI can't force me to buy those extra shoes I definitely don't need. Good to know.
Exactly. It's all about you, the consumer, having the power to choose.
Okay, let's switch gears to something even more immersive. VR and gaming. AI seems especially powerful in those realms because those experiences are so engaging, so all-encompassing.
Totally agree. VR and gaming are designed to pull you in, to immerse you in the experience, which unfortunately makes them ripe for subtle forms of influence.
Like the holodeck from Star Trek, right?
Yeah.
But instead of fantasy worlds, it's pushing you to spend more money or behave certain ways within the game.
It's a valid concern. But with Article 5.1, the goal is to ensure that even in virtual worlds, your autonomy is protected. No subliminal messages or manipulation to control your actions or decisions. You call the shots.
So even in the virtual world, the EU AI Act is basically saying fair play still applies.
Precisely. Transparency and user control. Those are paramount, even when we're talking about immersive environments.
Okay, let's talk about something that hits a little closer to home for most folks, financial services. This is where AI manipulation could have some serious consequences.
No doubt about it. We're talking about people's hard-earned money, their financial well-being.
Imagine an AI-powered financial app that's subtly encouraging you to make risky investments you don't fully understand. Or maybe it's pushing you to trade more often, racking up fees for the platform, but not actually helping you.
Exactly. Those are some of the concerns.
Pretty scary, especially for people who aren't financially savvy.
The EUAI Act recognizes that. With Article 5.1, the goal is to make sure AI in finance is used responsibly. Any advice or recommendations should be clear, transparent, and not take advantage of people who might be vulnerable.
So no more AI whispering, bet it all on red
Yeah,
in your ear while you're on a trading app, right?
you got it. Financial decisions should be made with a clear head based on conscious choices, not on sneaky manipulative tactics.
I'm sensing a theme here. Transparency and user control. Those seem to be the key principles across all these examples.
They are absolutely central to the act.
Okay, let's dive into healthcare now. AI has amazing potential in healthcare, but it also has the potential to be misused, right?
It's a double-edged sword, for sure. On one hand, you have the potential to revolutionize healthcare with AI, but on the other, we have to be super careful about the ethics of it all.
Imagine a healthcare app powered by AI that's subtly pushing certain treatments or medications. Not because they're the best for you, but because they're more profitable for whoever made the app.
That's a huge concern, and Article 5.1 is designed to stop that from happening. AI in healthcare can be a great source of information and recommendations, but it should never use underhanded tactics to sway medical decisions.
So ultimately, it's the patient who has the final say in their healthcare, not some sneaky algorithm.
Absolutely. Patient autonomy and informed consent are paramount. People have the right to make decisions based on clear, unbiased information.
Okay, now for a topic I think a lot of people are worried about. Social media. We all know platforms use algorithms to keep us hooked. But with AI in the mix, it feels like those algorithms could become even more powerful and maybe even manipulative.
You're right to be concerned about that. Social media companies are gathering tons of data about us, our behaviors, our preferences, even our emotions. AI can use that data to customize our feeds and notifications in ways that are super sophisticated.
Remember the Cambridge Analytica scandal? That showed just how easily personal data can be used to manipulate people's opinions and behaviors.
It did. And while the EU AI Act doesn't directly tackle data privacy, Article 5.1a does try to prevent social media platforms from using AI to mess with user engagement through these subtle or deceptive techniques.
Our source material mentioned a parent who was really worried about their kids' social media use. They felt like they were constantly fighting against the platform's algorithms to protect their child from harmful content and unhealthy influences.
That's a struggle so many parents are facing these days. The constant notifications, the fear of missing out, the perfectly curated content designed to keep you scrolling endlessly. It's easy to feel like you're losing control.
So it sounds like the act is trying to make sure we're using social media consciously, not being played like puppets by AI algorithms.
Yeah, that's the goal. It's about giving users back their power and reminding them that they have a choice. They can disconnect, step away, and make conscious decisions about how they engage with these platforms.
Okay, we've covered advertising, e-commerce, VR, finance, healthcare, and social media. What's next on our list?
Let's step into the world of politics. That's where AI manipulation could have some serious implications for democracy itself.
Politics and AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It definitely has the potential. Just think about how social media has already impacted elections with the spread of misinformation, right? Now imagine throwing AI into the mix, amplifying those tactics, micro-targeting voters with super personalized messages, exploiting their fears and biases.
It's like some dystopian sci-fi movie.
Okay.
But also, it feels way too real.
It does, right. And that's exactly why Article 5.1a is so important here. It's all about making sure voters are making informed decisions based on facts, reasoned arguments, not just knee-jerk reactions triggered by manipulative AI tactics.
So it's about protecting the core of democracy, really.
Exactly. Transparency and fairness, those are crucial. Especially in this digital age where information spreads like wildfire, and AI could easily be used to widen the divides that already exist.
Okay, that's politics. What about news and media? We rely on them to keep us informed, but what happens when AI starts sneaking in and shaping the news we're consuming?
It's a huge question and a real concern. Think about it. An AI system that's choosing which news stories you see, how they're presented, even the tone and language used.
It's like those filter bubbles everyone talks about.
Right.
You only see information that reinforces what you already believe.
Exactly. And that kind of thing can lead to this dangerous polarization of society where people are living in totally different realities. Article 5.1 tries to address this by saying news outlets can't use AI to manipulate their readers' opinions or emotions with these sneaky techniques.
So it's about protecting the integrity of journalism, making sure people can form their own opinions based on balanced, objective facts.
Precisely. It's about upholding the principles of a free and informed press, even in the age of AI.
Okay, this next one might surprise some people. Education. It might not seem as obvious as advertising or social media when it comes to AI manipulation, but it's just as crucial, right?
Absolutely. Think about it. The way we learn, the information we take in, it shapes how we see the world. Now imagine AI subtly nudging students towards certain interpretations of history or pushing particular views on controversial issues.
Like some kind of subtle indoctrination.
Yeah, in a way. And that's what Article 5.1a aims to prevent. It's about safeguarding students' right to learn and form their own opinions without being manipulated.
So no more AI pushing a political agenda in online textbooks or educational apps. Got it.
Right. Educational content should be about encouraging critical thinking, independent judgment, not subtle persuasion tactics.
Okay, now let's get to an area that always sparks some debate. Public safety and surveillance. This is where AI manipulation starts to feel a bit Big Brotherish.
I know, right? And that's precisely why the EUAIACT treads carefully in this area. Imagine AI systems in public cameras or digital signage that use subliminal cues to influence people's behavior.
So like making people feel calmer in a crowded place or discouraging certain behaviors without them even knowing they're being influenced.
Exactly. It might seem well-intentioned, but using these subliminal techniques raises some big ethical red flags.
Yeah.
People have a right to know when and how their behavior is being influenced, even in public spaces.
No more sneaky mind control in the name of safety.
Got it.
What about hospitality and tourism? That one seems a little less serious, but I guess AI could be used to nudge us to spend more, right?
Think about those personalized recommendations you get on travel websites or booking apps. Now imagine those recommendations being subtly tweaked by AI to boost profits for the platform.
Oh, I see. Like suggesting a pricier hotel or a longer stay than I was thinking of?
That's it. And that's where Article 5.1a comes in. Even in those situations, it's about making sure consumers are choosing based on what they genuinely want, not on AI manipulation.
So no more AI whispering in my ear to upgrade to the deluxe suite while I'm browsing hotels.
Exactly. It's about respecting consumer autonomy, ensuring that choices are being made freely and consciously.
Okay, last but not least, gaming and esports. Feels like AI could really ramp up the emotional intensity and keep players hooked even more.
Oh yeah, for sure. Imagine AI systems that tweak game difficulty or rewards in real time to keep you glued to the screen, or even using subtle cues to encourage those in-game purchases.
It's like those mobile games that throw limited time offers at you just when you're about to rage quit. They know exactly how to push our buttons.
It's true. And while some level of challenge and reward is part of what makes games fun, Article 5.1a is there to stop developers from exploiting players with AI, especially younger or more vulnerable players who might not fully grasp the consequences of spending money in-game.
So promoting ethical game design, making sure players aren't being tricked into spending more than they planned, it's all connected.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between keeping people engaged and not taking advantage of them. Even in the virtual world, those ethical considerations matter.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground. From advertising to gaming, Article 5.1a seems to have its fingers in a lot of pies.
It does. And that's because the potential for AI manipulation goes way beyond any single industry. It's about protecting a fundamental human right, the right to make our own choices, to think for ourselves.
It's like saying our minds are off limits in the digital world, just like they are in the real world.
Exactly. It's about bringing those fundamental rights and protections into the age of AI. And as AI keeps becoming a bigger part of our lives, these conversations are only going to get more important.
So to sum it all up, what's the big takeaway here? What's the overall impact of Article 5.1a?
It's setting a global example for ethical AI development. It's drawing a line and saying, these practices are unacceptable, no matter how tempting they might be for companies or governments.
It's like the EU is saying, we're not going to let AI become some puppet master controlling our thoughts and actions without our say-so.
Love that analogy. The act is all about making sure AI is a tool that empowers humans, not the other way around.
All right, so for everyone listening, I want to leave you with this question to think about. Have you ever felt nudged or influenced in ways you weren't totally aware of, even in seemingly small ways? Maybe by an online recommendation, an ad that felt a little too personalized, or how a social media platform curates your feed.
It's important to be aware of how AI can affect our thinking and actions, even when it's not as obvious as subliminal messaging. Article 51A is a reminder that we have the right to make our own choices, free from manipulation.
It empowers us to demand transparency from the companies and organizations using AI. We have the right to know when and how AI is being used to influence us.
Absolutely. Awareness and informed consent are crucial as we navigate this increasingly AI-driven world.
Well said. Okay, we're going to wrap up this deep dive into Article 51A for now. But stick around because in our next episode, we're tackling another fascinating aspect of the EUAIACT, Article 51B, which focuses on AI and its impact on vulnerable groups.
This is a really important topic. We'll be looking at how the Act aims to protect vulnerable groups from AI-driven discrimination and ensure that everyone benefits from this technology.
It's a discussion you won't want to miss. Join us next time as we continue our deep dives into the EUAIACT and what it means for the future of AI.
And until then, stay curious and keep those critical thinking skills sharp.
Before we wrap up Article 51A completely, I want to go back to something we talked about earlier. How this article is about more than just protecting us as individuals, it's about shaping the entire future of AI.
Absolutely. It's setting a standard, a benchmark for ethical AI, making sure this incredibly powerful technology is used to help humanity, not take advantage of it.
It feels like we're at a crossroads, right? We could go down a path where AI is used to manipulate and control us, or we can choose a path where AI empowers us, makes our lives better.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And Article 51A, even with its imperfections and challenges, it's a step in the right direction. It's a declaration that we value human autonomy, freedom of choice, even in this increasingly AI-driven world.
That brings us to a question posed in the source material that really made me think. What are our thoughts on Article 51A? What does it really mean to ban those subliminal and manipulative AI techniques?
It's a bold move, there's no doubt about it. And it brings up a lot of questions, like how do you even define manipulation when we're talking about AI? Where do we draw the line? And how do you enforce these rules without stifling innovation?
It's like trying to hit a moving target, right? AI is constantly evolving, which means the ways it can be used to manipulate will evolve too. It's this ongoing game of cat and mouse between the people making the rules and the people developing the technology.
Exactly. It's a constant back and forth. But that doesn't mean we should just give up. We have to keep having these conversations, debating the ethical implications of AI, and setting guidelines that protect our fundamental rights.
Because if we don't establish those boundaries now, while AI is still relatively young, we risk ending up in a future where we don't really have control over our choices anymore.
Yeah, I agree. We could end up in a world where we're being nudged and manipulated by AI all the time without even realizing it.
So for our listeners, here's my final thought. As we move into this future where AI is everywhere, it's more crucial than ever to think critically. Question the information you're seeing. Be aware of the subtle ways AI might be influencing your thoughts and actions.
And remember, you have a choice. You can be a passive consumer, just letting AI wash over you, or you can be an active participant, helping to shape AI's development and making sure it's used for good.
Well said. And with that, we're going to wrap up this deep dive into Article 51A of the EUAIACT. It's been a fascinating exploration, looking at all these ethical dilemmas that come with AI and the work being done to ensure its responsible development.
We hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity about AI and its implications for the future.
And as always, thanks for joining us on this journey. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.